Namaste. I'm Purnima, a Yogic and Ayurvedic health coach. Some of you already know me, and I'm super excited about today's masterclass. I knew that I wanted to take the topic of sleep because sleep is so very crucial for our health. It's one of the main cornerstones of health, but also it is something that women of, I can say my age perhaps, women who are true or transitioning into perimenopause and menopause often find that sleep is always elusive. So we're going to look at sleep from a different perspective, from the Ayurvedic perspective. And hopefully that'll give you some insights into how little tweaks of your lifestyle and understanding your specific unique body type can impact sleep. So this masterclass is called Deep Sleep on Repeat because at the end of the masterclass, I'm going to offer for you to download a free guide, which is also known as Deep Sleep on Repeat. Yeah, where we want to really focus on how to fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, so that you can wake up feeling refreshed. Before we begin, let's take a few moments to ground down and just bring our attention into presence because we are often quite distracted and we want to focus on this masterclass. So take a moment to settle in to wherever you're seated. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then for the next breath, take a deep inhale into the belly, into the chest, and then, like you're blowing out through the straw, blow out through the mouth. We can do that one more time, into the belly, into the chest, out of the straw. And let's begin. Now, like I said, just want a quick introduction of myself so you know who I am and why I'm telling you all of this. I've been teaching for over a decade and I work mainly with women who are career women transitioning through perimenopause because I myself have gone through this journey and I'm currently in menopause, managing it naturally. And I've noticed that the nuance of Ayurveda and the combination of yoga practice every day can really help through this whole transitional phase because it sort of gives you an insight into your body, what the characteristics are, what symptoms you go through, as well as, you can do some lifestyle shifts that can impact your severity of the symptoms. So these fixes that I do, they're not quick fixes, but they're rooted in very kind of somatic experiences as well as their time-tested practices because they are handed down through generations, right? Yoga and Ayurveda are ancient sciences, like 5,000 years old. Most important aspect of these practices are that they guide you back to your innate body wisdom, right? Our body knows how to heal. Our body has the wisdom, not only our own wisdom, but also wisdom that our parents and our ancestors have passed down through our DNA, right? So when we get really busy and stressed and the modern life is just so chaotic, we often tend to feel a little disconnected from our body. And we need to bring that connection back, especially as you transition through perimenopause. And everything that you can do to help your body during this transitional phase is really key to its success. So let's have a quick look at what we're going to look through the masterclass today. First of all, for those of you who might not know what perimenopause is, we'll just do a quick glance through why sleep disruption is one of the key indicators that you might be going through hormonal change. What is the importance of sleep? Now, of course, we know through experiential lived experience that if you don't have sleep, you feel awful the next day. But there is scientific reasons behind it. Let's look at that. Plus the impact of lack of sleep and perimenopause on a busy career woman. What Ayurveda and modern science have to say about it, and what's the difference, and how they complement each other. as well as we look at what doshas are. Yeah, this is when it gets a little bit technical, but I'll try and keep it simple. Doshas are body types and how that impacts sleep and what we can do about it. So let's look at what perimenopause is. Yeah, perimenopause is anything from about 38 to 45 years. Sometimes, if you've got health reasons, you might start it earlier. Your hormones start to shift. Yeah. And basically, it's your ovaries stop to generate eggs and signals from the brain to the reproductive system to sort of say, okay, this woman is now getting past it. No, I'm just joking. You know, basically the reproduction cycle slowly shifts, right? So, but it can take anything from 4 to 10 years, this whole transitional phase from you, um, starting to stop your period to actually stopping your period. So when you have not had your period for 12 consecutive months, that's when you're in menopause. But the period before then, when you have fluctuations, right, that is your perimenopause phase, right? So you might start to experience symptoms that you think you're going a little bit crazy. Yeah, I think you're going a little bit doolally. You might start to feel things in the body that you've never felt before. You might start to get angry for no reason. You might get anxious for no reason, right? But don't think that you're going a little crazy. There's actually evidence that there are shifts that happen in the brain and your nervous system, the rhythms of your body slowly change, right? And a lot of things, a lot of factors impact your experience of perimenopause. Yeah, it's your genetics, the lifestyle, the amount of stress is the key indicator of how you're going to go through your perimenopause, as well as medical history, your diet, and lots of other physiological, social, environmental factors that impact your perimenopause experience. But the transitional period from when you're having your regular cycle, period cycle, to when you finish and stop your period for 12 consecutive months, right? When you've not had even a single drop, not even the tiniest little drop, then that period is known as perimenopause. Yeah. So, what is it that impacts sleep so much in perimenopause? Why is it that sleep is one of the key indicators and one of the first things that you might notice where your sleep starts to disrupt a little bit, right? Your When you go through perimenopause, your estrogen and progesterone levels drop. Yeah, that's what's happening. Your body's female hormones are starting to reduce, right? And that also impacts melatonin. Now, melatonin is a sleep hormone that your body generates. Yeah. And when you're stressed, usually it is your estrogen receptors and estrogen in the body that can balance out the cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone. But because that's not happening, you start to have more cortisol in the body, right? You start to collect more of this stress hormone. So you're constantly feeling like your nervous system is in alert mode. Yeah, you might feel anxious. You might start to have hot sweats, hot flashes, night sweats, right? And one of the other indicators is you wake up early morning between 2 and 3. It's like a alarm clock, your body alarm clock. 2, 3 a.m., you might wake up feeling really nervous and scared, right? Not only hot sweating, but like just terrible world-ending thoughts. So that's quite a indicator that your body is going through perimenopause, right? And your sleep basically starts to disrupt. Or it might also be that you're trying to sleep in the night and suddenly your body is asleep, but your mind is constantly awake. Yeah, so you don't feel like you've had a good night's sleep. Now, why is sleep so important for us? Yeah, I know that, like I said before, if you don't sleep well, you feel more tired, more irritable, you feel more reactive, and you feel like quite kind of out of control almost, right? You get more, you forgetful, and emotional. But sleep is really a non-negotiable when it comes to health, right? And I won't go into too much detail, but your body needs at least about 5 to 6 sleep cycles, right? REM cycles, so that it actually goes into detox mode, right? When you're sleeping, your hormones actually recalibrate your insulin levels, your melatonin, all the body starts to kind of go down, not shut down mode, but kind of calms down, right? Your brain detoxes. There's actually your brain, your cells in the brain, your neural pathways, your body cells all kind of reset. Yeah, and your nervous system needs a chance to calm down, right? Your food, your metabolism, your emotional regulation, all of that happens when you're sleeping. So when you don't get enough sleep, you need at least, like I said, 5 to 6 full sleep cycles so that you go into the different states of REM and non-REM sleep. But when you're in perimenopause, you only have sometimes 2 to 3 REM cycles if you're lucky, right? So that can really impact your symptoms. Yeah, you might notice that when you've had a bad sleep, the next day you're more forgetful. You might even get hot flashes. You have a belly bloat, right? Of course, you're irritable and you're tired, right? So deep sleep really means deep healing. So our attempt to get sleep every night, like so many of us just go, oh yeah, it's all right, I'll catch up over the weekend. That's another myth. If you're sleeping badly through the week, saying that you'll catch up in the weekend, that is not as good as sleeping every single night. Yeah, you've got to have at least 7 hours of sleep every single night. Now, you probably know this fact that women actually need more sleep than men, right? But tragically, women are the ones who experience more sleep disruption, right, during their lifespan, right? When you're young, you've got your menstrual cramps. When you're of your fertile ages, you have children, then you have pregnancy issues, or when you're pregnant, or when the kids are out, then you have sleep disruption because of them. And then when it comes to menopause, perimenopause, you have sleep disruption again, right? But sometimes also that we are the main caregiver in the family, whether it's the dog that has to be let out in of the house to go for a pee, or the child cries, or there's an aging parent. It's usually we, because of our emotional, nurturing nature, we want to get up and help. So we're the ones who are always having sleep disruption, right? But studies have shown that a long time of no bad sleep can actually lead to chronic illness later on in life, right? And if you notice, or if you study, you will the research shows that women suffer more dementia than men because of the whole menopausal and hormonal change that they go through. So sleep is really very important, especially for women. What happens now for a career woman, right? You're a career woman or a businesswoman or a leader, not just at work and your business, but also at home, right? You have a lot of responsibilities. You wear different hats. Your attention, the need of your energy is fragmented in so many different directions, right? So when you have low sleep, right, you have real low resilience, and little things can feel overwhelming. And when we ignore those little things, they collect up over time. You get more brain fog. You forget people's names, that you've got this constant thing of, oh, I know this person. It's like, I know the face, but the name doesn't come to me. You have irritability, anxiety, especially at work, because anxiety is like, you get anxious about being anxious, and then you get anxious even more. It's like it feeds into each other, right? Plus, when you're overly tired and you've not had a sleep, you might not look after your health because you don't have the energy to exercise. You might give in to emotional eating. Then you go into guilt cycles of that, right? Um, and you make basically easy choices, right? You reach for that sugar or the fifth cup of coffee because you want to feel more energetic. So, when you're waking up regularly in the night due to hot flushes or not going to sleep on time or waking up at 3 a.m., you feel burnt out by the end of the week, right? That impacts your immune system. You get more sickness, or you tend to feel like you can't achieve the things that you want to achieve. Then you start to feel like it's just all interconnected. Your physical, your mental, your emotional well-being, yeah, slowly gets impacted. But worst of all, for a career woman transitioning through perimenopause, she might start to feel, oh gosh, I can't do this. I can't do this job. It's too much, right? Sometimes lack of sleep and anxiety can really be daunting for a person to even leave the house, right? So it's quite sad that someone who is supposed to be at the peak of her career, who has spent so much time and so much effort, so many years to build up her career, has to even consider that she wants to give her career and her dream up, right? And that has a huge impact in itself. So there's a hidden cost of overwhelm, burnout, and lack of sleep. It's all sounding very dreary, but we're going to have a light at the end of the tunnel soon. So let's look at how Western medicine looks at sleep. Now, Western medicine has gone, beyond our imagination. It's amazing, right? So I'm not knocking it at all. But usually, Western medicine treats the symptom, right? You go to the doctor, straight away they hand you a pill. Usually it's for immediate relief, right? And for especially in perimenopause, you might consider HRT, or also known as MHT now, which is amazing because you want immediate relief. There are also things like circadian rhythm that are buzzwords now, right? Or sleep hygiene tools, supplements, melatonin, the doctor must have subscribed to you or prescribed to you, as well as sleeping pills, right? That's the one thing that perhaps lots of people do, right? Now, this will give you immediate relief, but is it really sustainable long term? Right? You don't want to stay on those sleeping pills forever and ever. You want to come off them. Um, so let's look at how Eastern or ancient Indian medicine looks at stuff, right? So, first of all, from an Ayurvedic lens, let me talk a little bit about what Ayurveda is. Ayur means health, and Veda is science, right? So, it's a health science. It's a sister science to yoga, right? And it's almost like makes yoga complete, because yoga is about the physical movement and connection of breath, body, and mind. But Ayurveda looks at food and lifestyle and sleep and, you know, aligning yourself with nature, right? And I'll explain why and how that works. So, from an Ayurvedic perspective, they look at you, or they as in, Ayurveda looks at you as a unique body type, right? It's known as a dosha. They've, over generations, worked out that there are three major doshas, which I'll come to in a minute. Yeah. So it doesn't say it's a sleep insomnia. There's no word as insomnia in Ayurveda. Yeah, it's a sleep disturbance or a sleep imbalance, right? And Ayurveda says that lack of sleep is bad, but even excessive sleep is bad, right? You don't want to be sleeping all the time, right? So, sleep disturbance is due to body imbalance and being out of sync with nature, yeah? Not living in rhythm with the sun, for example. Like in the good old days before electricity, they used to live in line with the sun, right? Your sleep reflects how you're managing your internal fire, which is Agni, or your digestive fire, right? As well as how grounded and earth element is in your body. So the main thing about Ayurveda is that it treats the cause, not the symptom, right? So you really take time to get to the root cause of why you're not sleeping. And of course, it's a holistic, full body, mind, food, environment, habits, lifestyle. So it takes a little time. It's gradual, but it's sustainable, right? And it's a real good thing to support your modern medicine, right? So let's say you're having sleep issues, go get your sleep pills or whatever you need, melatonin supplement. But then what else can you do to add on to that is what this, hopefully this masterclass will help you with. Okay, now that is quite a lot of information. So let's take a few moments. Take a few breaths. If you feel like you want to pause the video, go get a cup of tea, or go to the toilet, you can do that. And let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far. We've looked at what perimenopause is, what the impact of sleep is because of hormonal changes, why sleep is important and impact on the career woman in particular, and how Western and Eastern medicine looks at sleep irregularities. What are we going to see now? So this is going to become a little bit heavy because it's Ayurvedic concepts, but hopefully you'll find it quite exciting and it'll give you an insight into understanding your body a little bit better. So we're going to look at something called Panch Mahabhuta, which is the 5 elements of nature, how that impacts your body type, which is known as a dosha. And I've put a little story in place for you to understand which body type you might fall into, right? But this is just, we're just touching upon it. It's a much deeper science, so it'll take a little more understanding. Yeah, so this is a top level view. Then we're going to look at how sleep impacts these archetypes, right? Based on archetypes, based on your dosha being body constitution. And then let's look at some solutions that we can put in place. So, what is Panchamahabhuta? Like the foundation of yoga, of Ayurveda is based on this concept. Yeah. Panchamahabhuta. Panch means 5 and Bhuta means elements, right? So, as you probably know, there are 5 elements of nature, right? You've got space, or also known as ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Yeah. And I found this quite pretty to overlap these dancing ballet dancers or whichever dances these are, because that's what it is. This is a dance between the elements, right? You've got these elements always interacting in nature with each other, right? And the same way they interact in our body as well. Now, that might seem a little confusing and funny, but let's look at what it is, yeah? So we've got 5 elements: ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. So when space and air work together, all right, these 3 energies, these 5 energies work together and they form doshas, which are energies, yeah, or constitutions that impact our body, right? So when space and air is prominent in someone, right, that's known as a vata dosha. All right. Then when fire and water work together, right, it's known as pitta dosha. So pitta is also known as acidic in the Sanskrit terminology, right? So fire is dominant, right, and supported by water. And when earth and water work together, right, with water being dominant and earth being supportive, grounding, that's known as kapha dosha, right? So these are the 3 main body dispositions that Ayurveda identifies, right, or recognizes. Vata being governed by space and air, Pitta being governed by fire and water, and Kapha being governed by water and earth. Yeah, so let's look at what that actually means, right? So the five elements, yeah, they create these three energies, because if you look at nature, right, these elements are constantly interacting with each other, right? You can't have one and not the other. Like, we wouldn't survive if even one of these were not available to us. Yeah, so each of these elements, right, or a combination of two, like I explained, they shape the mind and body function in an individual. They impact the way digestion takes place, metabolism takes place. They impact the personality, the thoughts, right? And how you interact with the world, right? So it plays a major role in almost kind of defining on a quite a broad level your characteristics, your behaviors, even your appearance, right? That is the beauty and the nuance of this, right? So if we were to look at it from a modern science angle, these three energies of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha can be broadly compared to motion, which is Vata, movement, because air moves, yeah, and space is about movement. Energy or metabolic energy, like, sustainable energy, Pitta, fire, right? Energizing. And inertia, right? Or groundedness, where there's not a lot of movement. Yeah, there's something that's grounding and building. Kapha, right? So in each person, there is a combination of these elements, right? And like I said, it's quite a complex um, concept, right? And each person has a dominant dosha, body type, and a supporting one. Sometimes you can have all three, right? Now, of course, when you're going through perimenopause, these things can shift because your body is going through transition, right? Body is going through change, right? And there's another concept called Prakruti and Vikruti. Prakruti is the constitution that you were born with, right? When you were born, in the land that you were born, the parents you had, the DNA you received, all of those things impact your constitution, right? Makes sense. That's your prakruti, your nature. And vikruti, which is changed nature, right? Because, like, for me, I was born in India and I had a particular sense of, I loved the warm environment and I behaved in a certain way in that warm environment. Now I moved to the UK to start with, and I was freezing cold and my body reacted differently. So there's a change in your constitution, little bit, right? And then I moved here, so then this environment also changes my state, right? But when it comes to perimenopause, right, again, these body constitutions that you have can have an impact on how you're experiencing symptoms, right? So very nuanced. So what symptoms you're experiencing, how your sleep is, yeah, Ayurveda can help you understand, yeah, and qualify some of these symptoms, right? The other thing you should know is that Ayurveda believes that as you're moving into old age, right? Let's be honest, we're all moving in towards old age. Yeah. The body starts to move towards Vata dosha, right? Vata being movement, because it's transitional, you're transitioning into menopause, right? And Vata also being because Vata is more drying, right? And as you're getting older, the body is shifting into Vata, right? And if you notice the symptoms I will show you, right? The symptoms beautifully align. Your Vata symptoms when Vata is out of balance, align beautifully with the symptoms of perimenopause. So that's your evidence for you. Yeah, so to understand these three doshas, I've created some archetypes. Each of these are maybe homemakers, but they may or may not have kids, but they're career driven and they're navigating perimenopause. Plus, they're having sleep struggles. All three of these women are having sleep struggles, right? So let's meet them. So I've tried to keep the names the same alphabet as the doshas. Yeah, so we're going to look at these perimenopausal archetypes only from the sleep perspective, right? Because Ayurveda is so nuanced that you can even work out your emotional and other symptoms that you might experience, right? But we're only looking at sleep. Now, you might say, what, sleep is just sleep, or sleep disruption, insomnia is just that. But no, Ayurveda can pinpoint to a certain extent, right? So, Veera the Visionary is a Vata dosha. She's 47 years of age. Note that that's very relevant. She's a freelance designer and mother of two teens, yeah? So her personality type, she's imaginative, intuitive, compassionate, but she's very easily scattered, right? She can't stick to tasks. She keeps moving around. Her build, she's usually slim built, but she has cold hands and feet. She's got dry skin. She has lots of bloating issues. She keeps getting anxious through perimenopause, but she's a very quick thinker, thinks outside the box, and she's an ideas person, right? And her lifestyle traits, she thrives on short bursts of energy, right? It's very hard for her to stick to routine, right? So she's quite erratic in her action, and she needs a lot of sleep. Yeah, Vata is governed by the two elements of space and air. Yeah, now space is all about movement, yeah, and vastness. Movement, air is about movement and transitions, right? Which is where the whole anxiety comes in from, right? Your mind is got racing thoughts, you're restless, you can't stick to particular tasks, right? You want to keep moving from one thing to another, right? So that's just consider that Vata is air and space. Yeah, we'll come back to it. Now, the problem or the sleep problem that she has, Veera has, right, in perimenopause, is she can get to sleep easily, but she wakes up at 3 a.m., like on the dot. She has racing mind and anxiety, and she can't get back to sleep, right? So she can get overstimulated, right? And if she fasts, it's fasting is not for her. She can't. She gets light and broken sleep. She wakes up at 3 a.m. and she's very anxious, right? That's her sleep pattern in perimenopause. Now let's look at Priya the powerhouse, right? Priya is Pitta body type or constitution, right? She is a senior marketing manager. She is smart and efficient and passionate. Yeah, but she can't stop. She wants to say yes to everything, right? She wants to do everything. Her dosha traits, she's got beautiful sharp features. She's usually a sturdy build, perhaps not overly tall. And she's very intense, very focused. Once she has her mind set, she achieves her goals, right? But she's also prone to acidity, irritability, and anger quite easily, especially in perimenopause, right? She has perfectionist tendencies and she can easily push through exhaustion. She doesn't need a lot of sleep, right? Now, Pitta, like I said, is fire and water, right? So fire means heaty. That's where the intensity of her personality comes from, right? And that's also the reason she gets tummy upset and acidity, right? Pitta people in perimenopause might also have things like skin irritation. So fire is all about metabolic energy, yeah, and intensity. She might also experience a lot of hot flashes, right? Let's look at her sleep problems. She is exhausted during the day because of perimenopause, but when she gets to sleep, her mind is bang, wide awake, right? She gets a lot of thoughts. She wants to start working at 10 o'clock in the evening, right? And even though she's completely exhausted, she can't get to sleep, right? Or she might be the type where her body is sleeping, but her mind is constantly awake. But eventually, when she even does fall asleep, she gets hot flashes, night sweats, and that wakes her up, right? So, Priya the powerhouse is a Pitta body constitution. Yeah, now let's look at Kapha. Yeah, Kate the caregiver, Kapha. Yeah, she's a primary school teacher, but she's thinking of transitioning to part time because she's really not coping with her perimenopause, right? She's got a warm and nurturing and calming personality. She can gain weight quite quickly, even if she just looks at food sometimes. She's got a lot of water retention issues, but she's also got really beautiful skin, hair, right? Luscious hair, right? Beautiful, lubricated eyes, body, nice, plump, nourished skin, right? And she loves her comforts. She loves her comforting foods. She loves to eat nice, heavy, starchy, grounding foods, right? But she can also feel emotionally heavy quite often, right? Now, this is all, as you can tell, this is related to earth and water, yeah, quite grounding and building. Now, the sleep problems she has is she sleeps beautifully. She doesn't have any sleep issues. Her problem is the opposite. She struggles to wake up. She feels groggy. She wants to keep lying around, right? There's energy levels are low and heavy, right? So you can see the three different, very categorically different sleep issues that these three people have, right? And that's based on their body constitution. Now, you might be thinking that I perhaps fit Kate's, like you might think that you perhaps fit Kate's disposition, but you're still waking up at 3 a.m., right? You sleep okay, you're feeling sleepy during the day, but you're waking up at 3 a.m., right? Or Pitta also sleeps okay, but that's because your body is moving towards Vata dosha, right? So the 3 a.m. wake ups are all related to Vata timing, right? So for this, I want to introduce to you a beautiful concept of the Ayurvedic clock, right? So in our society, Western society, we've got a normal clock, right? Of course, even in Ayurveda, that's the same thing, but it moves with the sun. Yeah, again, we're going to only look at it from the sleep perspective. So we're only looking at the nighttime clock for us to understand it. But yeah, if you look at the top corner of the screen, you've got specific time periods that are Pitta dominant, Vata dominant, and Kapha dominant, right? And that is all related to the sun. So, for example, peak of your day, right? If, of course, 10 a.m. might be the morning for someone, but if you look at it from, caveman days, yeah, when the sun would have been at its peak between 10 and 2, yeah, when it's hot being Pitta, right? That's a Pitta time. And evening cooling down 2 to 6 is Vata time, and then night between 6 and 10 is night Kapha time, right? When you have to wind down and ground yourself, go into kind of slow winding down mode, right? Then from 10 to 2 again is Pitta time, right? 10 o'clock p.m. to 2 a.m., right? 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Vata time, right? So that Vata period in the morning or the middle of the night is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and Kapha is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., right? So let's look at it from a sleep perspective, right? So if we look at it, Kapha time, 6 to 10 p.m. is the ideal time for you to go to sleep, right? So when you sleep later than 10, that's when your pitta starts to rise. So your fire element starts to rise in the body. That's why people who are dominant in fire element struggle to go to sleep at that time in the night, right? Their mind wakes up, right? That's because your pitta is imbalanced, right? And then early morning vata period, because it's about movement, right? And you're starting to wake up. That's the time you have to wake up, because pre-electricity days, you'd have to wake up with the rising sun, which is around anything from 5 to 6:37, right? Depending on which part of the country you are. So, which part of the world you are. So that's when your vata starts to wake you up, right? And that is the time in the morning when you wake up with anxiety, right? Because that's your vata phase or your vata imbalance talking, right? I hope you understand that. So let's look at the Ayurvedic approach, right? Look at Veera, Priya, and Kate's sleep irregularities. There are sleep irregularities, but they're slightly different, all right? So during perimenopause, it is your main body constitution, your dosha, that dictates the issues that you might have. In Ayurveda, your body is moving towards a vata dosha. So you might experience, even if you are a different body type, you might still experience the 3 a.m. wake ups. So, how does Ayurveda look at it? You have to look at your lifestyle, your diet, your habits, and look at the root of why you're having that imbalance. What can you do to bring your body back into balance with those elements, right? So that you can fall asleep. What can you do to down regulate your nervous system, reduce your stress hormones, right? So that you can have practices to help you sleep and stay asleep, right? You've got to really look at your lifestyle with a fine tooth comb or through a magnifying glass or both. Yeah, so I'm going to share with you the REST method, right? So REST is an acronym, right? This is a 4-part simple step routine, rest ritual, that's going to help you recalibrate your body's rest rhythm, right? So this is something I use. It's really worked for me, and it's very simple and easy to put into practice, right? It is friendly for the doshas that are struggling to sleep, right? So pitta and vata, right? And it's also helpful for you when you wake up at 3 a.m. So this method is something that I've formulated. It's worked for me and my clients, right? And I'm sharing this with you here today. It is really quite simple to put into practice. If you want to get to sleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up feeling refreshed, right? So you start with one day. Don't think about how many days you're going to do it. Just start with one day and keep doing it every single day. It's very simple, right? Simple 4 changes that you need to add into your routine. And then I've got another 20-point checklist that you can add on slowly. Look at what other aspects of your lifestyle and routine you can perhaps tweak a little bit. So let's look at what the REST method is. Yeah. So REST method is to first release digestive fire. And how do we do that? Exhale to calm and cool the body, right? So that's helpful for pitta and anxiety. Soothe the senses. So really feel that touch and connection to the body that really down regulates your nervous system. And then you turn inwards and you become silent and get ready for sleep. Right? Once you've done the rest method every night, you can know for sure you're going to get sleep. But you have to seal the deal by switching your computer screens off, yeah, phones off at least 2 hours before bed. And you know the reason for this, right? As well as make sure you're tracking, yeah, how this is impacting your sleep pattern. So you know that it's working for you, what's working for you, what's not. Yeah, so let's look at the rest method in a little bit more detail, right? These might seem really simple to you. Yeah, you might say, oh, this just doesn't seem like it's going to work. Yeah, so I know of all these issues that come up in your mind as you listen to this, because I work with clients, yeah, who go through the same thing. But trust me, this has worked for me, and it works definitely. It's going to get you into a better position to fall asleep. Yeah. So let's look at R for rest. Yeah. So R is to release the digestive fire. So what happens for our modern lifestyle and families is dinner becomes your main meal. You're usually waiting for your partner or your children to come back from sport or whatever it is, and you end up eating really late in the night. Plus, because it's the main family meal, the meal is usually pretty heavy, right? You have meat, and you might think you're having a salad, and you might think you're eating healthy, but actually what you're doing eating late, first of all, is that you're putting your body into stress, right? Second of all, as per Ayurveda, eating meat in the night, right, in the evening, means that your body doesn't digest it, right? And so undigested particles stick to your digestive tract, and then that causes you sluggishness, belly fat, tiredness, right? And eventually you get sick over time. Yeah, according to Ayurveda, that is one of the biggest reasons for sickness, yeah, your undigested food in the body. So Ayurveda is all about working with the sun, right? You might have seen the Ayurvedic clock, right? And Ayurveda also understands that the body is intelligent, right? Because it's all about connecting to your body's wisdom. The body knows when it needs to be awake, when it needs to receive food, right? That's the whole thing about circadian rhythm, yeah, the Western view of it. When the sun is rising, your metabolism is kick-starting, right? That's the time you need to eat your biggest meal for your breakfast. When you're going to sleep, when there's no light outside, right, your body says, my digestive fire needs to switch off. My metabolic organs, like the liver that detoxes and the pancreas that, produce enzymes, they all need to shut down so that the body can do other things like detox, yeah, purify the blood, you know, detox the brain, regenerate cells. So the body needs that energy to do that when you're sleeping, rather than digest the food you've just given it an hour before sleep, right? So make sure that your sleep time is for detox, for restorative processes, and for the blood flow to move through the whole body, not just to your digestive system to try and digest it. So when you eat late, your insulin, your blood sugars get impacted, your slower metabolism can't digest the food. Yeah, you have a lower calorie burn because you're not moving around. Yeah, in your circadian rhythm, your body goes, what the hell's going on? Right? So eat hopefully by sundown, but even if you can't do that, make sure you eat a light and warm meal. Yeah, now like I said, the body is moving towards vata dosha, and vata body means that your body is cooling down, right? Your blood circulation, your blood vessels are shrinking as you're getting older, so you need to give it warmth to keep the body warm, right? So make sure your food is cooked, warm, and light before bed. That is going to change the way you sleep. It's going to change the way you sleep. It's going to change the way you wake up in the morning. You might even wake up before your alarm, not too much before, just before your alarm, feeling energetic and ready to face the day, right? So this is one of the foundations of having good sleep. Having a light, preferably vegetarian soup or warm, brothy kind of meal 2 hours before bed at least. Yeah, so that's the R. The E is to practice 3-part breath. Yeah, so this is going to calm your nervous system down. Yeah, so 3-part breath is known as Dirgha Pranayam. Let's not go into the name. Yeah, it's just lengthening the breath. Dirgha means lengthening. Pranayam is to modulate the breath, right? So Three-part breath is where you're breathing into the belly, into the rib cage, and into the chest. So you should feel that expanse of breath, right? And then you're going to blow out through the straw. You can do this with me. Into the belly. Yeah, and then up into the chest. And blow out through the straw. You can do 5 of these before bed. Into the belly, into the chest, out through the straw. Yeah, so you can do anything from 5 to 10 before bed. How does this help? Yeah, expanding your breath capacity straight away activates your awareness to the body, right? It moves your attention away from that busy, scattered mind onto the breath and onto the body. Yeah. In doing the long exhale through the mouth, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, I won't go into what that is. Hopefully, you know what that is. It's your stress response system, right? And you want to down regulate your nervous system. You don't want to be stressed when you're going to sleep. Yeah, and that long exhale also helps you cool the body down. So if you're prone to hot flushes, prone to getting warm in the night, it's going to cool the body down before you go to bed, right? Also, this is such a simple breath. There are so many complex breathwork systems now on Instagram and social media. But really, you just need a simple connection of breath, right? This is such a simple system to learn so that, let's say you wake up at 3 a.m. with anxious thoughts. This three-part breath is going to calm your anxious thoughts, put you back to sleep, right? It has the capability of putting you back to sleep. That's what I've experienced for myself, right? So three-part breath into the belly, into the chest, blowing out. Simple. Let's look at the S of rest, yeah? Soothing the senses. So we know that melatonin is pretty useful for sleep, right? And doctors prescribe it as a supplement, right? But the body produces melatonin through the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland is a very important gland and aligned with our eyebrow center. Now, you might know if you've done yoga that the Agnya is quite an important part in yoga, right? It's used for a lot of stuff. You talk about the third eye, but in reality, it is related to how it's connected to the pituitary, which manages your hormones, and the pineal gland, which generates the melatonin in the body, right? But over time, after we are a certain age, the pineal gland actually shrinks down if it's not used. So that's the yoga practice actually keeps the blood flow alive in the pineal gland. Yeah, it's deep inside the brain. Yeah. So gentle massage using your ring finger or your index finger. You can even tap it. Tap and circle. Now, as you're doing this, do it really consciously breathing. Gentle tapping, connecting to the eyebrow center and even the temples. Just think about the connection that your fingers are having to your temples and your skin. And if you're doing this with calm breath, then you're going to again relax your nervous system. Yeah. And again, to activate your parasympathetic, the vagus nerve, yeah, which is a reasonably recent finding in modern science, yeah, that's also responsible for your stress responses, right? You can activate that by simply massaging the back of your ears. Simple technique. Again, I've kept it really simple because people need to remember this. It's not overly daunting. and just pulling, gently massaging your earlobes. Yeah. So massaging your earlobes, this is an ancient Indian practice. Yeah, we used to be told to do this as children when we were naughty, but that was mainly to kind of relax the nervous system down, right? And just massaging behind the ears. So three things. One is to massage your ears, earlobes. One is to massage behind. See, as soon as I start doing it, I get a yawn. That's the body releasing. And then eyebrow center and temples. Yeah, just a little connection and down regulating of the nervous system. Yeah. And the last one is T for turning inwards, right? So as you're lying down, you can do all of these practices in bed. That's the beauty of it, apart from the eating dinner at light meal, right? You're turning inwards and you're doing a gentle body scan, right? Just kind of surrendering the day back into the universe. It's a beautiful practice, right? It's a very critical practice before sleep. You draw your senses inwards. Make sure you're acknowledging your body parts, yeah, or just acknowledge your body as a whole, acknowledge the day that you've had, right? And just return it back. Allow the day's events to just go. This practice doesn't even have to take more than, 1 minute. Yeah. So keep it simple, keep it short, scan through the feet onto the whole body, right? And don't try not to linger on too many thoughts and feelings, especially if you've had a stressful day. Focus more on the breath. Yeah. And if you want, you can even place your palm on your heart and your navel, right? So simple rest method. Yeah. You practice this every night. Yeah. And I've got a video that I can share with you through my uh, guide that I have, right? You practice this every night and you notice the difference in the way you sleep, right? Now, how do you make sure that this is actually going to work? There's no point in doing all of this if your phone is right next to you buzzing away, right? So you've got to make sure that you're switching your phone off, especially if you're sleeping badly, right? Most people think that binge watching Instagram at 9 o'clock in the night is a nice down time routine, but it's not, right? It really activates all the wrong parts of your brain, oxytocin hits. Yeah, we don't want that before bed, right? So modern blue screens are terrible for us, even if you're reading the news, right? Instead of that, do some journaling. Make sure you put, this is such a simple thing, that your phone on airplane mode. Forget vibrate and silent. Keep your plane on airplane mode, right? You don't need contact with the world while you're sleeping unless you have any emergencies, right? The other important thing that you need to do, especially if you have broken sleep and you're using your phone as your alarm, this has also made a big shift in my sleep patterns, right? And it's quite a human tendency to see, oh, is it time for me to wake up yet? Right? I don't know if you do that, but I used to. And it has been a conscious way to change the way I sleep. When you put an alarm, like I put an alarm for, say, 5 o'clock. In the past, when I'd wake up at 3 o'clock, anxiety struck. I would look at the phone, going, is it my time yet to get up? How many hours are there? How many minutes left to get up? Don't do that, because the moment you look at that phone, that's going to just wake you up even just that little bit more. Instead, leave the phone where it is and focus on that three-part breath. Yeah, trust that alarm of yours. Yeah. Check it 20 times before you go to sleep to make sure you've set it correctly, but then don't look at it when you wake up in the morning, right? And of course, if you can't manage it all, use a real-time alarm clock, yeah, analog, whatever that is, round thing, which goes bling, 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 instead of your mobile phone, right? Make sure you're tracking, right? In my download, I have a tracker that you can just mark off to see, I did this today. I ate a light lunch, light dinner. How did it impact me? I did the three-part breath. How did it, because And in my download, I've got 20 other points that you can use, just little tweaks here and there, environment, practices that are going to help you enhance your sleep, right? So in that case, you need to know what's working. What's working for you, what's not working for you. You can add, you can subtract, habit stack, right? And make sure that you have some celebration when you sleep well, because that kind of builds a positive neural pathway in the brain, and you might want to do it again and again so you sleep well. So just a quick recap of what we covered: the 5 elements, Panchamahabhuta, the 3 body types, doshas, the 3 archetypes of Priya, Vera, and Kate, what the Ayurvedic clock is in relation with the sun, the different time zones or the times of day when Vata is active, Pitta is active, and Kapha is active, and the sleep guide, the rest framework, right? Thank you so much for your time, guys. I hope you found this useful. So if you want to download the Deep Sleep guide, the Deep Sleep on Repeat guide, I'm sure that Charlotte will have put details on how to access it. If you have any questions about it, please do reach out. I also work with career women transitioning through perimenopause, or even if you're in menopause, and look at specific health goals that you might have when you're going through perimenopause, right? And we look at it from a yogic and Ayurvedic lens. So it's a little bit of a different angle to what you might already be doing. So it might help you work a little differently. But we do it with looking at your energy and time calendar, because without having a sustainable action plan in place, these things don't work, right? I know this because I've been through it myself, and my clients go through it as well. And I'm going to also launch my Back to You group program, where I'm working with just 3 or 4 women per dosha type. So that's 3 dosha types, right? And that's going to start in September. So this is where you really understand and work with your body. It's not just a quick fix, it's a deeply sustainable practice that you implement into your day-to-day life, right? So the aim is to cultivate a daily practice of sorts, right? Keeping in mind your time crunch, the symptoms that you might be facing in particular. So it's very kind of personalized and nuanced for you, right? And of course, you can join my mailing list. I send out newsletters and as well hold retreats. I've got a retreat that's happening in August. There are only few spaces left for that, end of August. If you want to join me, that's also going to be a beautiful 2 nights at Kula Muravai. And I'm planning some more retreat days as well. You can follow me on Instagram at Purnima Thrasi, but otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, do reach out.